Does co-sleeping interfere or harm your child's emotional development? Well, let's talk about that today on Tips on Teens. My name is Kent Toussaint. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I specialize in helping kids, teens, and families live happier lives. I lead two organizations, Teen Therapy Center and the nonprofit 501c3 organization, Child and Teen Counseling, both here in Woodland Hills, California. And every Wednesday at noon, I jump onto Facebook Live to answer your parenting questions. Let's answer today's. I saw online this week that Alicia Silverstone was getting flack for letting her 11-year-old son sleep in the same bed as her. I don't really see why she should be shamed for this. My daughter would still sleep with us sometimes almost until she went to college. I think it's pretty normal and healthy, and it really annoys me how judgmental people are. Do you think letting your child sleep with you is detrimental somehow to their development? Is there a developmentally appropriate age when you think it's no longer a good idea? Thank you for your question. I think this is a big topic that is never talked about. It's a pretty common thing. Working with kids for many, many years, I've met with a lot of families who have different opinions on co-sleeping. And by the way, let me do a precursor here. I am talking about co-sleeping or family bed sharing or whatever you want to call it in a family home where there's no abuse or sexual abuse happening. Let's just assume we're under that umbrella. That's a whole other issue that, a whole other video. But let's assume for argument's sake, what we're talking about is families where abuse is not happening, okay? So up until, just a little history on co-sleeping, up until about the 1800s, humans across the world all co-slept for a variety of reasons. Number one, you need it for heat. Your child would freeze to death if they didn't have warm bodies next to them, just like other mammals. And, there was no electrical heating or gas heating in houses back then. Also just for protection. Just make sure your baby is safe, your child is safe. And in most of the world, again, family sleeping, co-sleeping is a pretty common phenomenon. It's kind of what people do. So is it detrimental to your child? No, it's what humans have been doing for hundreds of thousands, millions of years. When is it appropriate to have them out of the bed or have them not come in the bed anymore? That's really going to be up to you and your family. Every family has a unique culture in itself, and it's up to you to decide what that culture is. If for you feel like kids should never be in the bed, then that's your decision. It's okay to have that opinion. And some of you may think, well, what about, you can't have babies in the bed. There's a lot of research done by Dr. James McKenna, who outlines how to co-sleep with a baby, helps with breastfeeding, helps with, actually everyone sleeps a lot better when the baby's in the bed. But again, there's proper protocols. We're not going to go into all the details now because that's not the focus of this. This is more about kids and teens in beds, which may sound weird to you, but for some families, again, it's a pretty common thing. So is it developmentally damaging? No. There was some research back in the 50s and 60s, Dr. Spock, Dr. Ferber. A lot of the theories are being challenged now about how it's important to isolate a child to make them more independent. And there's a lot of research now that's saying the more interdependence and dependence a child has early on helps them be more independent later on. And again, that's a whole other video to talk about, and there's probably a whole workshop series. But it's really important to you to find out what works best for you. If your kids are calling you bed at 3 in the morning and it's just too hard to kick them out, that's fine. If the kids start in bed with you, that's fine. If your kid's never in bed with you, that's fine too. There's no wrong way to do it, just what works for your family. Now, when is it right for them to leave? Maybe as they're teenagers, oftentimes they just naturally pull away and want to do their own thing, which is normal. So again, talk to your kids, figure out what they want, figure out what you want as a couple or as a single parent, and go from there. The only concerns I have is if you're a single parent and you co-sleep and then you start a new relationship and you want to bring that person in, that's something that has to be talked about and dealt with very delicately and carefully, because kids could feel they're being replaced, and also bringing that step-parent into the bed may not be appropriate. So it gets complicated, but make sure you talk about these things, talk them through, so you're making a real informed choice on what's best for you and your children. That's our question for today. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Kent Toussaint. from Teen Therapy Center and Child and Teen Counseling. If you have a question you'd like me to answer here on Tips on Teens, email us at tipsonteens@teentherapycenter.com or direct message us right here on Facebook. We love your questions. Thanks again. I'll see you next Wednesday.